first moment I heard about it, like Introvert's Edge, I was like, okay, yes, that's me. Like I'm the guy who scores like 98% on the introversion scale, and I just fell in love with it. I love story. I love knitting that into what we do and how we communicate, and his use of story through the book and his teaching on how to use story in this a sales strategy was just such a breath of fresh air from the like hard charging, you gotta smile and dial kind of a thing that I had been taught about sales previously. My sales process changed quite a lot after the book. Beforehand, it was kind of like there were a couple of resources I'd use. So I had a bit of a script, but it was much more like you're driving and kind of like in your face and here, do this, do that. And you word it this way. And it just felt kind of crappy. I avoided it. I didn't like it. I undermined the effectiveness of it because it just wasn't a fit for me. Having read through the book and being able to, adopt the framework and the principles that he had out of it, and being able to leverage stories as opposed to arguments, I felt like the process became much more personal. It was much more enjoyable. I got to the point where I was like, man, I actually like having conversations about sales, right? It was just a huge transition for me, even just personally and emotionally, from something that I didn't like and avoided. It was a necessary evil to something that I genuinely enjoy doing. I'd read a number of sales books ahead of time, everything from, we don't have to name them. They're all the ones that we know about. And I felt like every one of them was written for someone that wasn't me, right? I was, it was like they were all written in French and I was trying to do them in English. It was just like, it just didn't fit. It wasn't comfortable. And it again, it didn't feel like me at all. I think Matthew's book was the first and probably the only book, even as I've read more afterwards, that really resonated with me from like, hey, that's actually something that I could find myself wanting to do. The rest of them I was like, you mean I have to do that? Like, that's what it means to sell? I understood it, I could execute on it, but it was not even remotely interesting or exciting. Matthew's book was just a very, very different flavor, from the very first pages. And I mean, hearing his story and being able to resonate with that, it felt like, a glove that actually fit. Introvert's Edge was and still is one of my most recommended books. I work with lots of entrepreneurs. I work with lots of folks who've started small businesses, and I don't know that there's any one of them that I haven't recommended the book to. I just recommend it all the time because again, it's such a different flavor to what's out there. And quite honestly, I recommend it to extroverts just as often as introverts, because one of the things that he's hitting at that maybe introverts have an edge on, but extroverts need, especially when revenue is the big factor, is consistency to it. And I felt like his use, not only his use of story, but his use of process was really second to none in terms of building a repeatable framework that you can just plug and play and do again and again and again. So it's my favorite sales book. It's one that I recommend for anyone who's got any kind of sales challenge. It's always my first go-to.